So I have done other book tours before of my TBR shelf and my graphic novels and manga, so I figured why not do the actual shelf that you see behind me all the time. So I apologize now because this might end up being very long, but I'm going to try to edit it so it's not as painfully long as it would be otherwise. I'm working with a laptop. I don't have a fancy camera to hold up and scan down, so we're probably going to pull the books off the shelf and you can take a look at them. So yeah, alright, let's get to it. So my top shelf is fantasy, mainly fantasy, a little bit of classics, and the start of my adventure section. So to start off with for fantasy is Quidditch Through the Ages by Kenilworthy Wisp, The Tales of Beedle the Bard, Hollow Earth by John Barrowman and Carol E. Barrowman, and yes, it actually is this John Barrowman. And then we have the Oz Chronicles by L. Frank Baum. This is a fancy borders collection. All borders. But yeah, it's like a fancy collection. It's got like the whole map of Oz in there, and this contains the first, like, what is it, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 books. The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, The Marvelous Land of Oz, Ozma of Oz, Dorothy and the Wizard in Oz, The Road to Oz, The Emerald City of Oz, and The Patchwork Girl of Oz. And I think I've only read like the first 3 of those. Continuing with fantasy, we have these 2 copies of World's Best Fairy Tales. These are put out by Reader's Digest. I have literally had these since I was an infant. So the cover looks the same on both of them, but they kind of form this cute little Hansel and Gretel thing right there that I like. And then we have Politically Correct Bedtime Stories. This is by James Finn Garner. This is really funny, by the way. Next up is The Wonderful Story of Henry Sugar, plus 6 more short stories by Roald Dahl. Some of these are a little more serious than his actual, like, children's tales. Like, you know, Matilda, James, he did James and the Giant Peach, right? Yes, he did. Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, all that. Then we have Nevermore, The Trials of Morrigan Crow, and Wondersmith, The Calling of Morrigan Crow. As you can note, I still have not gotten any further in here, but I ran out of room on my TBR shelf, so I just kind of saved its place on here with the hope that I will actually finish reading it soon. Up top is The Reader by Tracy Chu, which I just finished last month. And then we have some Terry Pratchett. Of course, my unread ones are still on my other shelf, but these are my read ones. I do have book 1 of Discworld, but my husband's currently reading it. So this is book 2, The Light Fantastic, then Equal Rights, and then these are for the Tiffany Aching series, A Hatful of Sky, and Wintersmith. I do have The We Free Men, but my brother is currently reading it. And then these you have seen more recently. I have the Percy Jackson series, so The Lightning Thief, Sea of Monsters, The Titan's Curse, Battle of the Labyrinth, and The Last Olympian. And then I have Castle in the Air by Diane Wynne Jones. And then I have Inkheart and Inkspell by Cornelia Funke. I never know how to pronounce her name, so I'm sorry if it's actually like Funk or like Funky or something, but I always say Funke because it reminds me of Tobias Funke from, like, you know, Arrested Development. So I don't know. And finishing off fantasy is A Darker Shade of Magic by E.P.E. Schwab, and Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children by Ransom Rakes. And then we have my Red Classics, which consists of The Odyssey by Homer, Around the World in 80 Days by Jules Verne, 2 copies of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens, because I have a problem, Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, and Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. The last books on that shelf are like the start of my adventure books, and these are all Clive Cussler's. We have The Mayan Secrets, which is by Clive Cussler and Thomas Parry, and this is a Sam and Remy Fargo adventure. And then we have the Dirk Pitt series. So I have his first adventure, Pacific Vortex. And then we have Cyclops, my personal favorite, Sahara, which the movie that came out a few years ago with like Matthew McConaughey was based on, and then Inca Gold. So for this section, this is a continuation of adventure, and then it goes into mysteries, and then my Vermont book section, and then the start of horror. So already there is a misplaced book. This is actually a classic, but it is Silas Marner and Other Short Stories by George Eliot. And then we have a tower of books. This is the Alex Rider series by Anthony Horowitz, and it consists of Stormbreaker. Yes, I have the movie tie-in book. Then it's Point Blank, Skeleton Key, Eagle Strike, Scorpia, Archangel, which is my absolute favorite, Snakehead, Crocodile Tears, Scorpia Rising, and Never Say Die. Okay, and then we get into mysteries. So we have The Mystery of the Missing Stamps, and this is by Margaret Gough Clark. It's like an old, well, children's mystery from like the 60s or something. Then we have The Mask of the Enchantress by Victoria Holt, and the Sherlock Holmes Handbook. This is actually by Ransom Rakes, and it is The Methods and Mysteries of the World's Greatest Detective, and this one is so cool. It's got like survival skills, detective skills. My personal favorite is this section that is all about how to locate a secret chamber. This is cool. And then we have my Agatha Christie's. So to start off with is my favorite, The Murder on the Orient Express. And then we have After the Funeral and Taken at the Flood. And these are, of course, are all featuring Hercule Poirot. And then we have a couple of Tommy and Tuppence mysteries with The Secret Adversary and N or M. And then a couple of standalones. We have Cricket House and Ordeal by Innocence. And then we have some Sherlock Holmes. So I have the complete volumes from Barnes & Noble. So this is volume 1 and volume 2, and these are by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Then I have The Rook by Daniel O'Malley, Bone to Pick by T.A. Moore, and then I have a couple of Longmire mysteries by Craig Johnson. I have Death Without Company, Kindness Goes Unpunished, and Another Man's Moccasins. And then we have How Right You Are, Jeeves by P.G. Woodhouse, Naked Heat and Heat Wave by Richard Castle, aka they're actually by, let me see, my goodness, it's not written in here. Anyway, these are based off of the Castle television show. I'm sorry, I can't see who they're actually written by. I don't think they're by Nathan Fillion, so okay. Then we have a Murder, She Wrote book. This is Close Up on Murder by Jessica Fletcher, aka Donald Bain. And then we have The Shivering Sands by Victoria Holt. And to finish off my mystery section, we have The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin and Open Season by Archer Mayer. And this is actually also the start of my Vermont books section. So for Vermont books, we have A Stranger in the Kingdom, Disappearances, and Northern Borders, all by Howard Frank Mosher. These two at least were made into movies. I don't know about this one actually. Then we have Water Witches by Chris Pajalian, Small Spaces by Catherine Arden, Green Mountain Ghost Schools and Unsolved Mysteries, and this is by Joseph A. Citro, and it's pretty cool. Then we have Off the Leash, Subversive Journeys Around Vermont by Helen Husher. And then this kind of coffee table book, it's Vermont Icons. This is by Jennifer Smith Mayo and Matthew P. Mayo, and it's just like different things that are just like part of Vermont. There's microbreweries, town commons, fishing, kind of like the fall foliage, of course, for all the leaf peepers. And then we have the start of my horror with City of Ghosts and Tunnel of Bones, both by Victoria Schwab. And this is a continuation of horror, my very few science fiction books, and then we get into nonfiction. So first up we have The Graveyard Book by Neil Gaiman. Then we have Anna Dressed in Blood and Girl of Nightmares by Kendara Blake. And then we have a bunch of Stephen King. Oh, except I lied. The first book on the bottom of the Stephen King stack is actually by Jeff Lindsay, and it is Darkly Dreaming Dexter, is what the television show Dexter is based off of. And then we have Stephen King. This is one of his short story anthologies, Nightmares and Dreamscapes. And the man's a genius. He got me to read a short story about baseball, and I enjoyed myself. Like, I don't know. Next book is Dreamcatcher, Bag of Bones, The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon, which if you're not really a spooky person, this one's probably a good one to read. Not only is it kind of a shorter one, but it's also more unsettling the whole time rather than outright terrifying. And then we have my favorite, The Shining. And continuing with Stephen King, we have Dr. Sleep, of course. Then Misery, which, I mean, also, look at his face. Look at that face. I can't. And then we have the Mr. Mercedes trilogy with Mr. Mercedes, Finders Keepers, and End of Watch. And then for my science fiction, we have Zenith by Sasha Alsberg and Lindsay Cummings, and then Stinker from Space and Stinker's Return, both by Pamela F. Sir. And then we move into nonfiction territory. First off, I have a guidebook for London. No, I've never been to London, but I found it at like a thrift store and I got hopeful, so it's a guidebook. Then we have A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. This is all about hiking the Appalachian Trail. And then we have Rise to Rebellion by Jeff Shara, and this is about the beginnings of the Revolutionary War. Then we get into true crime territory with The Devil in the White City by Eric Larson. This covers not only the prolific serial killer H.H. Holmes, but also the Chicago World's Fair, and what it took to make it and what went on there. It is a pretty dense read, and the H.H. Holmes bits get kind of gruesome, but it's also really fascinating. Then we have Stay Sexy and Don't Get Murdered, a how-to guide by Karen Kilgariff and Georgia Hardstark of My Favorite Murder. And then I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle McNamara, and this is all about the search for the recently caught Golden State Killer. We have some ghost books. This is Don't Kiss Them Goodbye by Alison Dubois, and this is what the show Medium was based off of. Then there is Relax, It's Only a Ghost by Ruth Berger. They Don't See What I See, and this is by, nope, I lied. This is by Echo Bodine. This is kind of a memoir. This is by Ruth Berger. This is like a memoir, but also really talks to you about how to like communicate with your passed on loved ones and CRs and shit like that. Then we have Haunted Island by Holly Nadler, and these are ghost stories from Martha's Vineyard. Then there is Ghost Hunting Southern New England. This is by Andrew Lake, and again, ghost stories from Southern New England. And then we have Ghost Hunting for Beginners, and this is by Rich Newman. So first up is I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings by Maya Angelou. Wishful Drinking by Carrie Fisher. All Boys Aren't Blue by George M. Johnson. And these ones you probably saw in my wrap-up of July. Then we have Let's Pretend This Never Happened and Furiously Happy, both by Jenny Lawson. These are freaking hilarious. Then we have Come Tell Me How You Live by Agatha Christie Malowin, and this is Agatha Christie's autobiography from when she went to the Middle East with her second husband, who was an archaeologist. Then we have Black Klansman by Ron Stallworth, and Maria by Maria von Trapp, and yes, that Maria von Trapp, The Hills Have... Oh, nope, not The Hills Have Eyes. Oh my god, that's a totally different story. The Sound of Music, you know, The Hills Are Alive, and all of that jazz. Okay. So it starts getting to kind of a mess, because I'm, like, out of room now. But down here is, like, finishing the nonfiction, going into historical fiction, and then we have kind of middle grade and young adult. So we've got middle grade mysteries, middle grade contemporary whatevers, and then we have young adult. So we've got like contemporary type things, and then like paranormal young adult type things. So to finish off the nonfiction section, we have Psychogeometrics. This is How to Use Geometric Psychology to Influence People by Susan Dellinger, PhD. I don't know if I'd put a lot of stock into this book at all, but it's from like the 80s and it definitely shows it in some of the things in here. I just randomly found this when I was in college, and I brought it to school with me because I found it friggin' hilarious. And yeah, I don't know, if you want kind of a laugh or to just see what shape you are, go for it. But like I said, I don't know if I'd put that much stock into it. Then we have the Tao Te Ching, and this is a New English translation by Stephen Mitchell. Then there is The Legion of Regrettable Supervillains, and this is by John Morris. So this is just all about various supervillains from comics over the years. And then we have Mythology by Edith Hamilton. Then we have my historical fiction section, which is A Time for Silence by Philippa Carr, which is about like World War I. Then we have Runaway Rails, which by E.A. Catania, and this takes place in the 1940s with a bunch of kids that are hopping trains. And then we have Two Maid Cabots, Nicola and the Viscount, and Victoria and the Rogue, and these are like Edwardian age, I believe. Our Regency, is that what I want to call it instead? Regency era? I don't know. Oh god. Then we have my Middle Grade Mysteries, which I do realize Weston Game should actually be down here, but I love it too much, so it's up with the regular mysteries. Anyway, these are my Nancy Drews. They are all by Carolyn Keene, and they consist of The Bungalow Mystery, The Mystery of the Lilac Inn, The Secret of Shadow Ranch, The Secret of Redgate Farm, The Clue in the Diary, Nancy's Mysterious Letter, The Sign of the Twisted Candles, which is like one of my favorites, The Clue of the Broken Locket, The Mystery of the Ivory Charm, The Whispering Statue, and these are all like the 90s neon yellow ones, and then I have a couple of first edition ones I found at secondhand shops. So The Quest of the Missing Map, The Ghost of Blackwood Hall, right? Hall? Yes, okay. And The Scarlet Slipper Mystery. And then we have Christie and Company and Christie and Company Down East, and these are by Catherine Hall Page. There's a couple of Mary Kane Ashley mysteries. So I have The Case of the Flappernapper and The Case of the Dog Camp Mystery, because yes, I was a Olsen twin fascinated person too. And then we have some Wishbone mysteries, as if I probably haven't mentioned Wishbone enough. So I have number 1, To Sniff a Thief, number 5, The Stolen Trophy, number 7, Drive-In of Doom, and number 19, Case of the Cyber Hacker. Then we have a stack of middle grade contemporary. So first off, we have some more Maid Cabot. It is from the Notebooks of a Middle School Princess series, so this is the first book. Then we have Royal Wedding Disaster, Royal Crush, and Royal Crown. And then we have Holes by Louis Sachar, Someday Angeline, also by Louis Sachar, The Boys Start the War, The Girls Get Even, and one of the third grade Thonkers. These are both by Phyllis Reynolds Naylor. Amazing Days of Abby Hayes. This is Have Wheels Will Travel by Ann Mazer. Baseball in April and Other Stories by Gary Soto. The Egypt Game by Zilpha Keeley Snyder, which is an awesome book. Ramona Quimby, Age 8 by Beverly Cleary. Fudgemania and Super Fudge by Judy Blume. Joey Pigs Has Swallowed the Key by Jack Gantos. And Grace's Letter to Lincoln. This is by Peter and Connie Roop. And then we have Young Adult. So I've got The Princess Present and Princess Lessons by Maid Cabot. These are like involved in the Princess Diaries series. Then we have Love Letters to the Dead by Ava DeLera. And then of course we have the Princess Diaries series. I do have the first 2 books somewhere. They're just like somewhere at my parents' house. But starting with book 3, we have Princess in Love, Princess in Waiting, Princess in Pink, Princess in Training, Party Princess, Princess on the Brink, Princess Mia, and these are like the only books that have ever bothered me when covers changed, because like what the hell. And then we have Forever Princess. Then we also have Royal Wedding, which is the adult concluding novel. And a little stack is Project Princess, which is actually book 4.5. And then we have the Mediator series, also by May Cabot. And this consists of Shadowland, Ninth Key, Reunion, Darkest Hour, Haunted, and Twilight. This is like the last bit of young adults, and then it moves into like modern classics and general lit, some romance novels, some romantic thriller mysteries, and then my poetry, and some animal themed. So continuing with young adult, we have I Know What You Did Last Summer by Lois Duncan. And then some more May Cabot. We have the 1-800 Where Are You series. So this is When Lightning Strikes, Codename Cassandra, Safe House, Sanctuary, and Missing You. And then we have the start of the Circle of Three series by Isabel Bird. So we have So Mote It Be, Marry Meet, Second Sight, What the Cards Said, In the Dreaming, Ring of Light, Blue Moon, The Five Paths, Through the Veil, Making the Saint, The House of Winter, Written in the Stars, And to Harm None, The Challenge Box, and Initiation. Okay, and then in like modern classics, general fiction, I have How the Garcia Girls Lost Their Accents and Yo by Julia Alvarez, Room by Emma Donoghue, The Joy Luck Club, The Kitchen God's Wife, and The 100 Secret Senses, all by Amy Tan, and The Secret Diary of Lizzie Bennett by Bernie Sue and Kate Warwick. This is what the YouTube videos from a few years ago. I think that came first, and then this was the result. Yeah. Then we have some romance novels. I do have more than this. I have like a whole bunch of Nora Roberts, but I just don't have a good place to store them right now. So they're kind of in like a bin right now. But these are the ones I still have on my shelf. And they are Seducing Mr. Darcy by Gwen Creedy, A Princess in Theory and a Duke by Default by Alyssa Cole, Boy Meets Girl by May Cabot, and Finding Fraser by Casey Dyer. And if you're a fan of Outlander, you might like this. Then we get into romantic mystery thrillers, and these are all by Phyllis Whitney. So we have Dream of Orchids, The Ebony Swan, The Golden Unicorn, Rain Song, The Singing Stones, The Stone Bull, Vermilion, and Woman Without a Past. And then we have poetry, which I actually am not going to cover because it's at the end of my old TBR shelf video, I think. Did I go over it? I think I did. Yes, I did. I went over all my poetry, so I won't go over that right now. But I will move on instead to animal-themed books from my childhood. So first off, we got some horse books. We have Camp Saddlebrook, which is one of the Thoroughbred series by Joanna Campbell, and this particular one is by Dale Gaskew, and it is, let me show you, signed. Then we have Old Bones the Wonder Horse, and this is by Mildred Maston Pace, and this is actually about a racehorse. And then we have some Marguerite Henry. I have King of the Wind, the story of the Godolphin Arabian. And then we have Sea Star, Orphan of Chincoteague, Misty of Chincoteague, and Stormy Misty's Foal. Then we have some more Marguerite Henry. Actually, this is Shamrock Queen. And then we have some Bunnicula. So the first one is, of course, Bunnicula by Deborah and James Howe. And I think it was just James Howe wrote the other ones. So I've got Holiday Inn, The Silvery Stalks at Midnight, Nighty Nightmare, and finally Bunnicula Strikes Again. And these, by the way, like, I still found, like, last year that I appreciate these as much as an adult as I did when I was a little kid. They're really funny. But that basically does it for this entire shelf behind me. Wow, this is going to take a lot of editing. Oh, it's going to be painful. Okay, well, sorry now if this, after editing, is still incredibly long. I tried. I hope you guys enjoy anyway, and if you did watch the whole thing all the way through, thank you, I guess, and also, I'm sorry. Have a great evening.